sometimes we just need that reminder that we have faced tough times before, and you know what's going to happen. We'll get through this big period of change and something else is going to come along and blindside us. And that's just how change goes. Personally, I hate that phrase, the new normal, because this is just the way it goes. It just feels particularly challenging at the minute.
Welcome to this week's episode of Unlocked, the podcast to help inspire success in your business and to help you live the best version of you. Hosted by me, Ricky Lock, professional magician, speaker, behavioural trainer, and generally all-round nice chap. And I'm on a mission to help you create success in your business and your life. And each week, I send out additional value to the podcast episode, free tips, tricks, and resources that you can implement right now and create success. If you'd like to receive those free tips too, head over to www.rickylock.co.uk/unlocked. I have some really exciting news coming soon, and for those who sign up, you'll be the first to know about it. In this episode, I talk to Chris Mooney, who's a mindset and resilience coach who helps people deal with change and to help them switch off their autopilot response. And in the episode, Chris talks about how he has 10 top tips for resilience, and you can grab that in the show notes. Make sure you head to the show notes at the end of the episode and download his free top 10 tips. As always, thank you for your continued support, and I hope you enjoy this episode. Hello everybody, it's me, Ricky Lock, and welcome to another episode of Unlocked, the Ricky Lock podcast. And today we have an amazing guest. We have the amazing Chris Mooney. Hi Chris, how are you?
Hello, I'm good. How are you?
Very good, thank you. Yeah, really excited for this. It's been a while coming now, and really looking forward to our chat. Chris is a mindset and resilience facilitator and coach who has made learning and development his career for more than 20 years. On a business level, he works with his clients to support people to be the best that they can be. And that can range from helping people to deal with change, working together on resiliency techniques for well-being, and even personality profiling to raise self-awareness and develop stronger relationships. Then on a personal level, Chris works with people to help them switch off their autopilot responses to develop their mindset and resilience for life's challenges at home and at work. Fantastic work there, Chris. I'm really excited for this because I think as a bit of an introduction really to help the audience understand, we met through wonderful, wonderful mutual friends. Both Alan and Emily from the Yellow Tuxedo. And
yes,
I've got to say that I found this because they were promoting one day on their Instagram stories, YouTube pages that they liked. We were tagged in at the same time, and it popped up Chris Mooney. I was like, who's this guy? And I checked the picture and I was like, oh, wow, he's talking about resilience and mindset. And I was like, yeah. That's all the stuff that I love, and that's what I train. So then I found you, watched a couple of your videos, and then said, "Hey, let's connect." And
yeah,
and then I think our Raz has just been fired up because now I see you everywhere for some reason. Yeah,
I think it was one of those early comments that you made on a video, and it mentioned loads of stuff that I love, and I was like, oh, I love that book as well. Oh my God, I love it. We just had a big old loving about the same old mindset stuff, didn't we?
Yeah. So this has been a really exciting journey of getting us on here. So I'm really looking forward to this.
Me too.
And I think everyone who's listening will really get some great information from Chris here. Chris, welcome to the show. It's a pleasure. You keeping well?
I am, yes. Yeah, all good. It's been a roller coaster year, hasn't it?
Yeah.
But yeah, it's been good the last few months, I think. Yeah, it's been good the last few months.
Good. And one of the things that Chris will probably share with you later on is his YouTube channel. His online presence is fantastic, and we'll mention this and plug this in the show notes. But his YouTube channel is brilliant, very engaging, very funny, and very informative as well. So we'll get Chris to share that later on. But first, I think we should just take a deep dive in for everybody listening. We've mentioned a little bit about your bio, but Chris, how did you get into this? What's your journey? How did you get into
my journey? My cheesy X Factor journey. Well, I'm based in Bournemouth, in Dorset, but I am originally from Northern Ireland and moved over here 24-ish years ago. So I've been doing this since way back when, like you said, but way back when we were in the old days calling it training and development. What I do, I guess it's easier to start from kind of the fact that we spend so much time developing our skills and our qualifications from a really early age, to be good at what we think we want to be good at and what we need to be good at professionally successful. What we are much, much worse at is doing the same when it comes to our resilience. And I don't know about you, but I think it really shows at times like this in terms of the year that we're having.
Yeah.
We think that we're the finished article. We stick our head in the sand. We repeat damaging patterns that damage ourselves and those around us. And we try and stay so strong for everyone. Or we might be worried about being seen as weak. All this stuff kind of going on. I always think about it as like we're dragging along this emotional baggage. It's visible, you know, and we're all kind of a big old bag of issues to varying degrees.
Yeah, mine's probably a massive soup.
Yeah, I was going to say, myself included. And really what I do is in terms of we need to be putting just as much focus onto, not just focus, time, energy, commitment towards our mindset, because the two are not mutually exclusive, you know, our skills and our qualifications and so on, because the stronger that our mindset and resilience, the more successful we can be both personally and professionally, especially when something like this hits. So that's what I do through that coaching, that facilitation. I help people to switch off that autopilot mode, as you put it, and really consider how they can do that work on themselves to support their mindset, to feel more resilient and to have stronger relationships around them to get better results.
So this is, I mean, it's a huge place to be in for, you know, for a lot of people right now. You know, resilience is probably going to be titled this year, isn't it, in the definition of 2020. Yeah. But how did you even get into that? Because one of the key things of why I'm talking to you as well is that your purpose is very similar to me, and with this podcast is that I want to help people be more successful, but also to help them live the best version of themselves, and you want to help people be the best person of themselves too. So how did you even kind of get into that? Because I'm guessing you didn't just walk out of school and go, yeah, great, I'm going to be a resilience coach and mindset trainer.
I'm going to do mindset.
Unless you did, and that's amazing.
Well, yeah, that I wish I had now, but no, I didn't. I think it's really interesting. I think that if I start off with kind of the slightly, dare I say, more boring kind of answer to the question, because to me there is much less boring answer. That I'll get onto, but I've spent loads of my career focusing on different parts of learning and development, that like parts like sales, customer service, management, leadership. But so often what really fascinated me was that it kept coming back to mindset. So, for example, putting off difficult conversations, mindset, people being scared to delegate. We all know how to delegate. We all know the process of A to B, but doing it, mindset. That nagging little voice or that imposter syndrome who tells us we're not good enough, even though we've got all the qualifications, like I say, mindset. So kind of that's what my main kind of professional passion was, to help people with in that sense. And what I try to do from CM learning point of view is be much less about the boring models and the TLAs, you know, the 3-letter acronyms, and much more about keeping it real and direct without that corporate jargon, to cut through to what's really going on for people. So that can sound like challenging organizations to look after their people and challenging people to take responsibility for their own development, because until that mindset's there, then we'll only be so successful in terms of how we can develop the skill set side of things. So that's kind of, professionally how I got into it. But I don't know, I might have bored you with my boring answer. Do you want to? So the slightly less boring stuff of what really drove me, and I haven't pivoted to mindset this year, although that would have been a great idea to do. It's like you say, it's going to go on for a while, isn't it? So I have been doing it for years. And I think the slightly less boring stuff is that I do it because I firstly believe in the difference that it can make. And I know that to be true within myself, because we all have our own story and our own hardships in life when it comes to resilience. And so a little bit of mine is that I've already told you I grew up in Northern Ireland back in the 1980s. You can't tell on a podcast, but I am old enough. My mother was an alcoholic, and she separated from my father when I was very little, before I can remember, in fact. And then she went on, she quickly met the man who was to become my stepdad. He was also an alcoholic, and they began a very toxic and destructive relationship. And so after years of lots of ups and downs, let's call them, I finally moved in with my dad and my stepmom when I was about 11. And then it was around about that time I started to discover and realize that I was gay, and experienced some homophobia. I hope I don't offend anybody by saying this, but my personal experience was, it's a pretty challenging place to grow up as gay back around about that time.
And this was in Northern Ireland, was it? At the
in
time?
Northern Ireland, yeah,
Right,
yeah,
well,
yeah. And then my little brother, he's 25 now. If I get that wrong and he listens, he'll probably kill me. But he was born about 5 years after that, and because of my mum's drinking, he was quickly taken into care. And so then on things went, and on things rumbled, as they do for all of us. And as I got older, around about the time when I was 18, my first boyfriend tragically decided to end his life. And then my mum died when I was 23, and my stepdad, my little brother's dad, a few years later, he died as well, both through alcohol-related situations. So kind of, why am I telling you this? And kind of because for me, it's that kind of less boring stuff about what really drives me to do this. And I'm more than comfortable talking about it, because I have worked well through all that stuff over the years. Because for me, from a really early age, I had a choice point there, and I could work on how I was feeling and the emotions that I was experiencing, or I could choose to ignore and repress them. So it did also help, by the way, because my stepmom was, at the time, she was studying to become a social worker. So we were constantly her guinea pigs for counselling and coaching and all that kind of stuff. So I did get some free support there. But in the space of a few years, and from a really young age, I learned so much about my own mindset and my own resilience that I think I might have otherwise missed. So I learned how to manage that little nagging voice I mentioned, that inner critic, when I would blame myself for my mum's drinking. I would beat myself up about, why can't I help her? Why doesn't she love me enough to stop? I started to understand the power of where I choose to put my focus. So I really started to learn that I couldn't stop anyone from drinking too much, or I couldn't save anyone else's relationship. And to me, that really became so much different to the cheesy positive mental attitude. It taught me to make a really tangible choice about where to burn my energy and where not to burn my energy. And then, just, I guess, overall, that it taught me that great impact of the words that we tell ourselves, both out loud and in our own heads, and how powerful they can be. So that's kind of why I do what I do. Wow. Did I take you on a journey?
That was it? Wow, what an incredible story. I mean, like, you talk about resilience, the traumatic experiences that you would have shared, through the fear, that homophobia. You've also got, obviously, the alcoholism and deaths at such an early age as well. That's wow. That's made you the person that you are today. And
it has, and it's what's driven me and drives me to do this, as well as, I know I joke about the boring answer, but there is the professional side. There's loads of great reasons for that. But I guess my point is that we all have our own story, and we all have our own traumas, we all have our own experiences in life, and that's just there was lots of good stuff, by the way. I was really loved. I had great experiences and memories and stuff like that. But what I'm saying is, I think for all of us, it's about digging a little bit deeper to really understand why we do the things we do, why we think the way we think. And so much of the time, in my experience and what I see in the people that I work with, we are so good that we're bad, in terms of pushing that stuff down and just putting it in a little box and not working with it. And I work with my clients and the people that I support. It's very much on it's group coaching, it's group facilitation, it's one-to-one coaching. It's not counselling. So I kind of want to make that clear early on. I am about to start a counselling qualification, but I am not a counsellor and I don't offer counselling. But this stuff can there can be a fine line between it, because you can get quite deep into what is going on for people and helping them to understand that.
Yeah, I've got a great experience with this with the wonderful Bev Holden. I've mentioned her name so many times now on this podcast, and she'll kill me soon.
I see Bev on my LinkedIn. I really like
yeah. So she's wonderful. So she's partnered with Kate Roberts from Clear Thinking Partnership, and her role when she coaches me, it's that platform to listen. A lot of that stuff that was deep down for me, I was probably pushing down quite a lot. But for her to create that platform where the powerful role of a coach, where she literally just says, what more do you want to think and feel? There's no kind of predetermined questions or kind of a predetermined avenue she wants to take me down. But she just asked me a great question, and I brought that stuff up. But like you said, now I'm accountable, because now I can really kind of, I can bring this out and I can talk about it, and I don't have to hide it away, because it's linked to why I do what I do. And it's important to understand that the past is the past. That doesn't define who you are. Doesn't define who you are. You can choose to decide if you want that to be defining who you are. I'm sure that you meet a lot of people, same in my industry as well, where a lot of their behavior is driven because of their past experience, that's now predetermined the rest of their life. Oh, I'm never going to be a success because I was a failure at such a young age, or what, oh, my mum and dad had said that, you're never going to be able to do that, so I haven't done it. But it's important to acknowledge that you have a choice. You can get hooked into that or make that choice.
There is a choice point there, I think, for all of us. And again, many of the people I work with, they say things like, well, I'm the finished article and you can't teach an old dog new tricks. And then we start working together, and over a period of time, they start to go, oh, what? You mean I have total control over how I choose to respond? Yes. And part of that's about understanding what that is. I think something else really interesting you just touched on is how we can, using our past to inform kind of our future. And that can have really interesting effects on the people around us, whether that's at work or in our personal lives, because so often people will hold us in their image, even when we start to change. And it can be a real challenge for people to start seeing and perceiving us differently, based on all that experience. But I think choice is huge, and particularly at the minute in a world where there is so much chaos and so much change. And I don't know how you feel, but I think there is always so much chaos and so much change. It just feels even more this year.
I think by this point this year, I'm ready for anything now.
That's a great way to look at it, because we're prepared. It's taught us a lot. And I think with that constant chaos and constant change, often the one thing we do have full control over is that choice that we can make. And sometimes that choice might be as simple, but simple doesn't make it easy to apply. But simple as, I'm not going to give that my energy, or I'm not going to burn my focus there. I'm going to choose really carefully how I respond. I
absolutely agree. I know that I believe you're a big fan of Carol Dweck as well.
Yes, I like a bit of Carol Dweck.
And as a behavioral trainer, I've trained teams, and we used a lot of the whole growth mindset and the fixed mindset model. I remember certainly rocking up to some stores where we were going through a big change in their culture and their strategy, and you're taking them from an environment where they've been in there for 25 years, the habits were there, it's how we've always done things, and then you rock that up, completely spice it and say, right, we're going to completely change all that. You're now not going to do that, you're going to do this instead. And I remember walking into those sessions, and there's managers in there, let's say, I won't be ageist at all, but they're older colleagues, and they're sitting there with their arms folded going, all right, come on then, what are you going to talk to me about?
Impress me, trainer boy.
That's right. And then I'm sitting there going, right, this is great. The first 5 minutes of this, this training session, but you see that catalyst, that light bulb moment change. And at the end of it, they're like, oh, rookie, oh my God, I didn't think of it like that. So I can choose to, respond differently, or my behavior is linked to, what's important to me in that. It's just funny, isn't it, that people are so fixed because of things, if I think about myself in a way that, growing up and hereditary things, like the things that are passed down to you, the mindset and the beliefs by what your parents tell you, I generally thought that when I worked in Argos, that I was going to be there for the rest of my life, because that's just the way things were. That's how things always work, but realizing that you've got that power to go, well, do you know what? I could be this. A phrase that we used to say a lot is, what do you want to be when you grow up?
Mm-hmm.
And I'd ask these people, in their 50s or their 60s, and I said, what did you want to be? When you were younger, what did you want to be when you grew up? And they go, oh, I wanted to be an astronaut. Oh, really? Great. So what happened? Oh, I got a job, didn't I? I got a mortgage, got some bills,
Reality.
And then, reality kicks in. And that's fine. That's understandable. But, when we get to those, I quote a great friend here, Matt Edwards, used to say that when you're born perfect. You have no idea how to, run, sing, dance, ride a bike, and you learn, don't you? You do it. And then when you become an adult, you slow down. But to that person that I said, you want to be an astronaut. So would you quit your job tomorrow to be an astronaut? And they're like, well, no. I said, oh, why? Why is that then? Oh, well, I've got a mortgage. I've got kids. Oh, right, okay. But you could though, couldn't you? And as you start to explain it to them, you go, well, yeah, I could. I mean, astronaut is probably an extreme example for probably a 60-year-old to be an astronaut. But we were helping people to understand that you can do this. You can make that choice. But for some people, they're just not prepared to do it. And you have to open their eyes and unlock that fixed mindset that actually, this is an opportunity here.
Yeah.
That great phrase I've shared a lot before in the past was, what if? I might wake up today and see lockdown across the UK. Yeah. And I might go for, say, whatever, right? This has ruined my business now. Yeah. But what if that day could be the best day of my life? What if it's the last day of my life? What if I get a phone call today that someone says they want to book me for a training session or for a wedding and they want to pay £5,000 for me? And if I don't wake up with, a bit of a hope or that growth mindset that today could be a really good day, I'm just going to be fixed, aren't I, thinking that this is the worst day ever. And therefore, nothing's going to happen.
Absolutely, yeah. It's really interesting. What did you want to be when you grew up?
Oh, I didn't expect that question. Thank you very much. Now, I wanted to be a policeman. Now, this is going to sound really strange, right? But I think I had an obsession with ties. Yeah.
With what?
Ties. And that's not in a kinky way. So please, for listeners, just like a tie that you wear with a suit. Yeah. So please, for the listeners,
I know, I'll be a policeman then.
Yeah, okay. Yeah. So I wanted to be a policeman because I love crime. I love not committing crime, but I loved, watching The Bill and things like that. And I remember fancy dress. I'd wear like a white shirt with black tie and have the black things. And now, like the police, I don't think they wear ties anymore. Yeah. I think that led into the doing something similar to become a magician because I wear a tie now. Okay. Maybe it was some sort of, I wanted to be this smartly dressed person. I don't know. And for listeners watching, I'm not wearing a tie right now. I'm wearing like a Hawaiian kind of shirt. But yeah, I wanted to be a policeman, and I still love that kind of forensic crime dramas. I love it. I always say to Danielle, "It's that person. They've done it." And she goes, "Oh, bloody hell, Ricky, you've ruined it." So who knows? Who knows, mate? I don't think I'd be a good policeman. I think I'm too nice. I think
you've still got time. You would be. Yeah, you would be good cop. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
But the fixed mindset thing you said, like, I did a cheesy video plug. I did a video on this. That was this week's one, in fact, challenging people to think, do you really have a growth mindset? Because it's a bit like when we all say we're great judges of character. I always think, well, we can't all be great judges of character. I know some shocking judges of character. Maybe I'm a shocking judge of character. So, most of us know the blah, blah, blah bit about a growth mindset, and our natural talents and abilities can be developed. Thank you, Carol Dweck. And but less people know actually what makes up a growth mindset. And it's not just about that belief, it's about where we put in our focus. Are we focused completely on what others think of us and trying to look good in front of everyone else? And then once we've cracked those couple of things, we can start to think, all right, so how am I when somebody offers me some feedback?
Yeah.
Do I kind of smile and nod and pay lip service to it? Or do I fight and argue and reject it? Or do I take it on the chin and open myself up to it? So feedback, things like when we cock up, when we make mistakes. Yeah, there's all these different elements that kind of make it up. And it's not, as with so much in life, it's fluid. Yeah. So it's like this year again, is teaching us so much about how what you've just said. One day we can wake up and we think, yeah, I've got this. I'm gonna fight for whatever I need today, and there's going to be some brilliant opportunities come along. And then 20 minutes later, let alone the next day, We can be in the slumps and go, oh my God, when is this going to stop? I've had enough now. Yeah. And I think it's learning to kind of tune in much more to that and that physiology and what our body's sending us, and really, really doing the work on what goes through our head and our heart sometimes, to understand it. There's nothing wrong with being strong, and there's nothing wrong with sticking our head in the sand for a short while. It gets us through, but stuff like that turns really quickly into unhealthy coping mechanisms.
I know it rings a bell because I know we connected over sumo before. It's that E plus R equals O. Absolutely have that wallow time, head in the sand, but make that choice not to make it a long permanent thing. It's just a temporary thing. So if tomorrow I have a really bad day and I want to be on the sofa all day, that's fine, but not get sucked into that you make that choice and say, do you know what? Next day, I'm going to wake up, I'm going to do something, I'm going to write in my journal, I'm going to go get some exercise to get me in that mindset. Chris, I want to say something actually, because you obviously mentioned this about fear, and my funny story about the 60-year-old that wanted to be an astronaut. I think you've just said it really well there about perception, about what people think of them. For that 60-year-old, and a lot of people who might be wanting to even pivot right now or even changing things, if I turn around on social media and said, do you know what, guys, I'm going to be a policeman, probably going to get a load of comments or, and that could damage me, but I think that fear really creeps in because people think, there's no way I can't do that because what will people think of me? I've got a mortgage, I've got kids. I can't just change my complete career. And then what they do is they ride out that same career that they're not happy, and they just kind of coast. And then they get to the end of their life and then they have those regrets thinking, I wish I did that. So do you think that a lot of it is linked to fear?
Do I think a lot of it's linked to fear? Yeah, fear, if we've touched on how others might perceive us, what will other people think? But let's again keep it real. It's like, it's okay to be scared, particularly at the minute. It's like, it makes, when we talk about fear like this, it makes me think of Joey. You need the fear. It's like, well, that's cool. To give up your job or whatever. And let's remember, lots of us are having a huge amount of professional challenges at the minute, as well as personal stuff. So redundancies and furlough and insecurity in that way. So it's okay to be scared, and it's okay to just be hanging on for dear life at the minute, I think, and just taking it day by day and whatever comes along. I think when we look at it much more with that growth mindset, like we've just been talking about, I think, again, there is that choice point in how we use that fear as what's the word I'm looking for, is like as more of an adrenaline rather than a nervous energy. Rather than an anxious energy. That choice point is, and I hate to sound a bit like, who moved my cheese or anything like that. I am not diminishing the impact of being made redundant or anything like that. But there is that, one door closes, another door opens, like cheese alert. It's like, okay, so there's
part
that
of the
choice
pun there as well. Great pun. Yeah, cheesy.
Thank you. It's like, okay, so what now? And often when there is that fear involved, like we're talking about, just that element of making that decision that we talked about, that decision of where am I going to put my focus? What can I do now? Just immediately empowers us and gives us a little bit of that control back when everything else feels so out of control. And I had this earlier this year, like I'm sure everyone listening had, and you did as well. So when it all hit, so facilitation, coaching, everything, particularly face-to-face, completely out the window, blah, blah, blah. Everyone had that. That's cool. We've all kind of experienced that in our own way. And I had my own few wallow days and so on, as I'm sure you did.
Chris, for me, months
weeks and months. And what I started to do was think, okay, so what now? What next? What can I do to get a little bit of control back? And I didn't have all the steps. I still don't have all the steps mapped out. But I started to do the first few little things that I could do to think. I mean, I've been doing virtual development for 8 years now, so luckily I didn't have to pivot to that either, and that was so I was one of the few who had heard about Zoom and loved them kind of before everyone else. But I remember telling Sean, my partner, we were walking the dogs one day, and I said, so and this was still maybe let's say like late March, early April. I was saying, so these are my plans, and this is what I'm going to do, and I thought that I could perhaps offer this out, and I was thinking, I might build up the YouTube channel a bit more, and I'm thinking that could be a really good help for people. And so I was telling him all these plans, and he said, his words were, he said, "God, you sound really positive." And I said, "Well, yeah." I said, "That's what helps me." I said, I said, "Who knows what the bloody hell's going to happen next?" I said, "But this is what helps me to feel a bit more in control." And it's like, no, that's good. And he hates it when I'm flicking to coaching mode or anything. He says, "Stop coaching me," as all my friends.
I've had that before,
Oh, God, you're so positive. But it was more than, that's why, again, I get a bit heated when we do it. It's much more than that positive mental attitude of hope for the best or keep your chin up. I think all of this, when we talk about fear, it sits firmly inside this realm of we're all going to have trauma. We are all going to have the stuff hit the fan, and so it's about being ready for that when it comes. It's about building our resilience so that we have the stocks there when it comes, and really being so careful about what we choose to focus on.
Definitely. I think it reminds me of something I remember training a long time ago, is that if you were to associate fear and excitement, so fear, let's say you're about to go on stage on X Factor, right? Sweaty palms, heart's pumping, adrenaline's pumping around, I'm nervous, right? How do you associate excitement? Well, people would say, adrenaline's pumping, hands are sweaty. It's the same thing, but your brain makes that choice going, like the limbic part of your brain will be going, you're gonna mess up here. This is gonna be nervous for you. And actually, it's the same feeling, but it's that choice. And I can't remember who said this, so forgive me. And the listeners, if you know who this is, then please tell me. But there was an experiment done on a plane where this guy was genuinely really scared of flying. And instead of him, he was shaking, his hands were sweaty. But instead of him actually saying, "Oh, I'm really nervous," he just shouted out as loud as he could, going, I'm really excited, really fun. And it actually went okay for him. But he was just associating that, oh my God, I'm getting sweaty palms, therefore that means that I'm nervous. But actually went, no, I'm going to use this as an excitement. It was making that choice between.
Total choice for it. I don't know the experiment. I'll have to look it up.
I have to find out who it was.
But the essence of what you're saying is that I could feel when you said about the X Factor, I could feel my heart beat a little bit faster. That sounds hideous. And mind you, I do like a bit of carrying for you after a few drinks. So when we used to be like, and then there's that. That's really interesting what you said about how we use that energy, because with the brain trying its best to help us so much, and at the same time doing so much to harm us because it's trying to keep us safe and all that kind of stuff. And it's no doubt. I mean, I would put myself into that situation regularly when I would meet a new client, when I would facilitate with a new group of people. And there's a couple, and I think that adrenaline can drive you on. And I think the moment you start to take that for granted, and then there's the other element of we get what we focus on. So, if we focus on, oh, they're going to hate me, or why am I doing this, or I don't have what it takes, then, that's going to play through. So I think there's that I mentioned much earlier now, that the impact of those words we say out loud in our own head. And I think that's a really good point to revisit those, I think, because so often that irrational brain that you mentioned, or that irrational voice, it's totally based in irrational thinking. So again, the choice is, do we allow that to write itself out and play itself out, or do we start to recognize it, switch off the autopilot, get logical with it, and tell it to shut up and rewrite the story?
It's like boxing the chimp, isn't it? Putting it in the box and letting the process or the rational thing could deal with this logically.
Absolutely. And we need, and again, it's important to say, we need to listen to that little voice a little bit. So but not all the time.
I think back to when I performed on stage, which is a time that was so long ago. I can't remember stages anymore.
Yeah.
But you do get nervous, and it's a good thing. I use it as a great thing, because if I'm nervous, I know that I'm excited, that I care, and I'm passionate, that I want to do a good job. But in your brain, you're thinking, oh my God, this is nerve wracking. My heart's pumping. I'm sweating. But actually, rationally and logically, I know that I've been performing magic for over 10 years. I know how to do this job. So why would my brain be telling me that you're nervous? But you turn that around, and I'd make it a choice. Say, no, this is great. This is excitement. I'll fire up those work anthems, put a bit of some music on to get me into that mindset that actually, do you know what? A bit of adrenaline's good, and a bit of fear is good.
Absolutely. Yeah, definitely. And yes, music's huge. I think it was Oscar Wilde said something like, the day I don't have stage fright is the day I give up. Yeah, it was something along those lines. I think, But again, so many of us, we just let it play out. We don't do the work, and that's why I'm saying this. We have that choice to put the focus and the energy and the commitment into making it different, into having a different experience.
I love that. Thank you, Chris. So, Chris, a question I'd like to ask you, that I ask all of my guests, is for anybody that's running a business right now, who's facing loads of choices to make right now, what tips or recommendations or advice would you provide for them right now?
Okay. I reckon I've got one hopefully quite good tip for if you are running a business, if you are working in a business, whatever that looks like for you. And I think that sometimes we just need that reminder that we have faced tough times before, and what's going to happen. We'll get through this big period of change, and something else is going to come along and blindside us. And that's just how change goes. Personally, I hate that phrase, the new normal, because this is just the way it goes. It just feels particularly challenging at the minute. So I think if nobody has ever told you this, whoever is listening to this, you are doing brilliantly. You are getting through it, and we'll get out the other side. Have a strong mindset, get resilient, because get ready for the next thing that will hit.
Yeah, totally agree. Great point. And Chris, I think it's important to understand about your YouTube channel as well, because as I said at the start of this, Chris's YouTube channel is absolutely amazing. He's got some fantastic videos with tips, advice about fear, about resilience, about confidence on camera. Tell us about that. Yeah, where can people find you? And tell us about the YouTube channel.
Well, thank you. I hope we're not building it up too much. I've really enjoyed starting to build up the YouTube. It's called CM Learning over there, funny enough, on YouTube. CM Learning. And it started out as I've been doing videos for quite a long time. Yeah, kind of just one takes to camera, really, stuff like that. And I wanted to make them something more that I could offer to people that I work with as a resource. And then it kind of just evolved, where I was seeing so many themes where people needed support across all these areas we've been talking about. And I thought, well, why not just put them out there to help as many people as possible? So yeah, I'm starting to get quite a nice little back catalogue now, all the stuff you've just mentioned and everything that we've talked about today in terms of that inner critic and negative emotions, difficult conversations, growth mindset. There's quite a nice little collection on there, and I drop a new one every Wednesday. So yeah, if anyone is looking for something to have a regular kind of resource for their mindset and resilience, I would love to have you in the gang over there, and we can probably put the link in the show notes.
We'll put a link in the show notes for anyone to go follow Chris. It's really great. I've been loving his videos for the last probably 6 or 7 weeks now. Yeah, so yeah, go over there, give him a little follow, give him a little.
You are the person. You are the one. I get 2.
Yeah, 2. Yeah,
thank you and Sean.
Yeah. But yeah, thank you for that. And for everybody else, if they want to keep in touch, find out more about what you do, where can they find you?
Yeah, the website cmlearning.co.uk, and that breaks down how people can work with me, whether that's for workshop facilitation or coaching. And that's got all my socials on there too. So it'd be great to connect. I'm always on, like you said earlier, splattered across all the social media stuff with things to help people keep mindset and resilience front and center for them. So I'd love to connect on there. And then we've talked a lot, of course, about resiliency today. So if people would like my 10 top tips summarized on a page, which has lots of relevant links to those YouTube videos, then I can put the link of where to get that in the show notes as well, if you want. Right. Or you can, once I give you the link.
We'll do that, yeah. Yeah, so we'll pop that into the show notes for everyone as well. That's great. Brilliant. Cool. Chris, Absolute pleasure. I've been waiting for a while for this one, and I've really enjoyed it. So thank you for coming on to the show.
You're welcome. It's a pleasure. Thanks, Ricky.
Thank you, Chris, for coming on to the show. I really enjoyed our conversation, and I hope everyone listening out there, you've took some value from this episode too. Don't forget, head to the show notes and you can find the link to download Chris's top 10 tips for resilience. And as mentioned, if you want to receive my free tips and tricks each week to help create success in your business, head to www.wikiloc.co.uk/unlocked. As always, thank you so much for your continued support. I hope you enjoyed this episode, and if you did, then please head over to Apple Podcasts, you leave a little review and subscribe to the podcast so you know when the next episode of Unlocked is available. Wherever you are, stay safe, and I will join you on the next episode of Unlocked.